So, have you ever meticulously planned like a major life change only to have a single totally unexpected variable just disrupt everything?
Oh, it happens to people all the time, but usually not like this.
Right, right. Just put yourself in this mindset for a second. You are plotting this brand new life, and you aren't just daydreaming about it.
Yeah, you're actually doing it.
Exactly. You are executing every single logistical step just flawlessly. You've gone out, you've secured the new job, you've packed up your entire life.
You've even safely relocated your most precious belongings.
Yes, you are quite literally in the final few miles of the journey toward this massive new beginning. The hard part is supposed to be over.
Right, you're at the finish line.
And then you just vanish.
It really forces you to question your assumptions about control, doesn't it?
It totally does.
I mean, we operate under this collective illusion that if we build a strong enough foundation, if we cross every T and dot every I, our plans are somehow insulated from chaos.
Yeah, like nothing can touch us if we're organized enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when a timeline is violently interrupted at the absolute apex of that planning phase, it tells us that we're looking at something entirely different than just, a simple change of heart.
Right.
Build a fortress just to walk away from it the day it's finished.
You really don't. Which brings us to the disappearance of 27-year-old Junaliza Maturan Oroc Chappell.
Known to her friends and family as Juna.
Guna, yeah. She vanished in February of 2007, and we are pulling from a really extensive stack of source material for this deep dive today.
Oh, we really are.
We have the Atlanta Police Department's official case files. We've got records from the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, specifically NAMU's case MP 8589.
Plus, we're looking at an incredibly in-depth cold case investigative review.
Right, alongside some recent true crime media coverage, specifically the really extensive investigative work done by Marissa Jones on the Vanished podcast.
Yeah, her work on this is incredible. And our goal today is to really look at the mechanics of what investigators have termed Juna's exit plan.
Because it was a real plan.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We need to analyze the catastrophic investigative delays that basically paralyzed this case from day one and explore the systemic friction that often renders adult missing persons cases just completely invisible.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we look at the timeline of how she disappeared, I really want to understand the psychology of who she was in early 2007.
Right, establishing a baseline.
Exactly. Because if we are going to evaluate the different theories later on, including the theory that she simply just walked away to start over,
Right.
we have to know who we're talking about.
And the sources give us a very distinct baseline for her. According to the NIMU's file and the APD records, Junaliza was a 27-year-old Asian-American woman.
Right.
She was quite petite, between 5'1" and 5'2", weighing roughly 110 to 125 pounds.
She had black hair, brown eyes.
Yeah, and a very distinctive fish tattoo on her left ankle.
But the psychological profile that emerges from the documents, that is what really stands out to me.
Oh, totally. She wasn't just drifting through life. She was highly organized.
Deeply motivated professionally.
Yes, and her entire world revolved around her 3-year-old daughter, Ashley.
Let's talk about that professional drive for a second, because the logistics here are just staggering to me.
They really are.
She had just accepted a new job out in California, and moving from Georgia to California is a massive undertaking all on its own.
Oh, it's a huge move.
But she didn't just accept the job and start throwing things in boxes. She actually traveled from Atlanta down to Florida first.
Right, to undergo specialized corporate training for this new role.
Which is wild.
Just think about the mechanics of doing that. Traveling out of state for corporate training requires a level of, executive function and forward thinking.
Yeah.
And that directly contradicts someone who is in the midst of a mental break or a spontaneous flight response.
It's a huge financial
It's a
investment.
massive investment of time and energy, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to coordinate travel, you have to book lodging.
You have to manage your daily schedule around seminars or training modules.
Exactly. People who are secretly planning to abandon their identities, they do not typically endure the rigorous, heavily monitored structure of out-of-state corporate job training just days before they vanish.
It doesn't make sense. But, okay, I want to play devil's advocate here for a second, because people do suffer from extreme burnout.
Sure, they do.
We see cases of people who hit a wall, they experience a fugue state, or the sheer pressure of a cross-country move just breaks them, and they abandon ship at the absolute last second.
Right.
Why couldn't that be the case here?
Well, it's a valid question. The pressure of relocation is immense, but the difference between a spontaneous flight response and Juna's situation really comes down to how she handled her daughter.
No. Okay.
A person experiencing a sudden psychological break, or someone who is secretly plotting to escape their responsibilities, they generally act out of self-preservation or panic.
Right, they just run.
Yeah. They leave their dependents behind in whatever current environment they are in.
Yeah.
They flee the source of their stress. Juna did the exact opposite.
The logistics of what she did with Ashley, I mean, it completely floored me when I was reading the case file.
So telling.
Anyone listening who has ever moved across the country knows the reality of it. It's grueling.
Oh, it's terrible.
You have the heavy furniture, you are driving thousands of miles over multiple days, sleeping in cheap motels.
Yeah.
And recognizing how difficult that transition would be for a 3-year-old toddler, Juna arranged for Ashley to go ahead of her.
She sent her out to stay with trusted friends on the West Coast.
It's like she basically secured a beachhead.
That is exactly what it is, a beachhead.
It's like military strategy applied to motherhood. You don't drag your most vulnerable asset through the messy, chaotic middle phase of a deployment.
No, you don't.
You secure the destination, you send the asset there, and then you handle the logistics yourself.
And that right there completely shatters the burnout or runaway theory.
It really does.
Look at the direction she was moving. Running away from a child is an entirely different psychological profile than a mother who has just safely and meticulously relocated her child to their new shared destination.
Wow.
She wasn't running away from her life. Every single action she took in the weeks leading up to February 2007 proves she was running toward her future.
She was systematically removing obstacles between herself and the life she was building with her daughter out in California.
Exactly.
So she has the job. She finishes the training down in Florida. Her daughter is safely waiting for her on the West Coast.
Everything is set.
Which brings us to the incredibly narrow window where this ironclad plan just completely derails. February 16th, 2007.
Yeah. The travel records verify her movements up to a very specific point.
Okay.
On February 16th, she is at a Florida airport. She has completed her training, and she is flying back to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta.
Right. And the stated plan, like the logical continuation of everything we just discussed, is that she lands in Atlanta, she retrieves her car, and she immediately begins the drive west to California.
But this is where the verified, documented truth ends.
Yeah.
And a completely uncorroborated narrative begins.
Yeah.
Because she never gets in that car to drive west.
According to the statements given to authorities by her husband, Timothy Chappell, he picked Juna up from Hartsfield-Jackson that day.
Right.
But he claims that instead of going to get her car or even going home to quickly pack up the final items, they drove to a local Walmart.
And the reason provided for this detour is, frankly, really interesting.
It is.
Timothy told investigators that Juna needed to pick up a medical prescription. According to his account, he parked, he waited in the car. Juna went inside the busy retail store alone, and she just never came back out.
I am struggling so hard to make the mechanics of this make sense.
It's difficult.
Put yourself in her shoes. You've just spent days away from your toddler. You've completed this exhausting corporate training.
You're probably dead tired.
You are at the absolute finish line of this massive life transition, eager to just get in your car and start driving.
Yeah.
Why is your very first priority upon landing a trip to a retail pharmacy?
Right.
Unless she had some acute life-threatening condition that she suddenly ran out of medication for mid-trip, it just feels incredibly out of place.
Well, and the sources do not indicate any chronic, urgent illness that would require an immediate emergency detour the literal second she got off a plane.
That's what I thought.
And when you look at how fabricated alibis are constructed in forensic criminology, this specific detail is highly recognizable.
Wait, really? How so?
When someone manufactures a timeline to explain a disappearance, they rarely invent something totally extravagant.
Oh, like they don't say aliens abducted her?
Exactly. They rely on mundane, highly relatable details. A trip to pick up a prescription sounds like a perfectly normal, everyday errand.
Yeah, people do it all the time.
Right. It provides a plausible excuse for being at a specific public location.
But it's a terrible location to choose if you are making up a story because it's a Walmart.
Very true.
Even back in 2007, big box retailers were not blind spots.
Far from it. Let's look at the surveillance technology of 2007.
Okay.
While they didn't have the high-definition, cloud-based facial recognition systems that we see everywhere today, major retail chains had heavy sophisticated closed-circuit television systems.
They had cameras everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. They utilized multiplexers that fed multiple camera angles into these massive recording banks. They had cameras sweeping the parking lots to monitor for liability claim.
Right, slip and falls.
Exactly. They had cameras pointing directly at the automatic sliding doors to deter organized retail theft.
Of course.
And they absolutely had dedicated close-up cameras focused specifically on the pharmacy counters, because that is where highly controlled substances are dispensed and stored.
Right, so if she walked through those sliding doors, she is on tape. There is no physical way a person enters a Walmart, walks all the way back to the pharmacy in the back of the store, and exits without leaving a digital footprint on at least 3 or 4 different camera feeds.
Exactly. And the absolute lack of corroborating video evidence showing Junaliza entering or exiting that specific Walmart is the central anomaly of this entire case.
It really is.
If the digital footprint does not exist in a high surveillance environment, the most statistically probable conclusion is that the physical person was never there.
But hold on. If that's true, if she supposedly vanished on February 16th and the whole story hinges on this Walmart trip, why couldn't the Atlanta Police Department just, drive over there the next morning, pull the VHS tapes or the DVR drives, and instantly prove whether she was there or not?
Because the Atlanta Police Department didn't know she was missing the next morning.
Right.
They didn't know she was missing the next week or even the next month.
This introduces the most catastrophic element of the entire investigation.
The reporting vacuum.
The numbers in the case file are just staggering. Juna vanished on February 16th. She was not officially reported missing until May 1st, 2007.
That is a 74-day delay.
2.5 months.
And we have to examine the mechanics of how that silence was finally broken. Who actually made the call?
That is the part that practically screams off the page. The person who picked up the phone and filed the missing persons report on May 1st was not the husband.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't the person who supposedly sat in a Walmart parking lot watching the clock tick by as his wife never returned to the car.
According to the APD narrative, the report was filed by a friend and a coworker.
Just let the psychology of that sink in.
Yeah.
The last person to see her, the person who was physically present at the supposed location of her disappearance, did not alert authorities when she failed to return to the vehicle.
He did not alert them when she failed to return home that night.
He didn't alert them when she failed to show up for her highly anticipated new job in California.
And he did not alert them as weeks turned into months, with a 3-year-old child sitting across the country without her mother.
I mean, put yourself in the shoes of that coworker.
Seriously.
You know Juna is fiercely organized. You know she is super excited about this job. At what point do you realize that the silence isn't just her being busy unpacking in California?
Is it day 20? Day 40?
By the time day 74 rolls around, you realize you are the only one trying to find her.
It's chilling.
But from an investigative standpoint, what does a 74-day delay actually do to the physical reality of a case? How do police even start an investigation when the trail is 2.5 months cold?
You are basically looking at severe, almost insurmountable forensic degradation.
It's just gone.
Yeah. A 74-day gap is a black hole. Let's break down the mechanics of that degradation, starting with the digital evidence at the Walmart we were just talking about.
Okay.
In 2007, retail surveillance systems operated on strict override cycles. Because server space and physical hard drives were incredibly expensive back then, systems were programmed to loop. They would record over the oldest footage every 30 to 60 days.
Oh, wow. So by the time May 1st arrives, the footage from mid-February isn't just sitting in some archive waiting to be viewed.
No, it's gone.
It has been completely overwritten by footage from March, which was then overwritten by footage from April.
Exactly.
The magnetic tape or the hard drive sectors have been literally erased and replaced.
Precisely. The digital truth of February 16th was permanently destroyed by the passage of time before the police even knew they needed to look for it.
That is so frustrating.
It is. The lack of CCTV corroboration might mean she was never there, but the 74-day delay means the defense can easily just argue, well, the tapes were just deleted.
Oh, right. It provides built-in plausible deniability.
Exactly.
What about the people, the employees at the Walmart or the baggage handlers at the airport?
Well, human memory degrades even faster than digital data.
That's true.
In missing persons cases, the first 48 hours rule exists because of cognitive decay. Witness recollection is sharpest immediately following an event.
Right.
If an investigator walks into a pharmacy and asks a technician, Did a 5'2" Asian woman try to pick up her prescription 2 hours ago? They will likely remember.
Yeah, of course.
But if you walk into that same pharmacy on May 1st and ask, hey, do you remember a specific customer from 74 days ago out of the thousands of people you've served since then?
The chance of an accurate, reliable recollection is basically zero.
Absolutely zero.
And then there's the physical environment.
Yes. In forensic science, 74 days is an eternity.
I can't even imagine.
If a crime occurred in a vehicle or in a residence, a 2.5-month head start provides ample, completely unpressured time for environmental sanitization.
You could do so much in that time.
You can deep clean a car multiple times. You can replace carpets.
You can dispose of personal belongings.
Manage financial accounts. Craft a narrative without any police pressure whatsoever. By the time investigators finally arrive with a notepad on May 1st, the physical environment has been entirely normalized by time and daily life.
But the delays didn't just happen at the interpersonal level. Even after the friend finally made the report, the sources outline how the investigation was immediately kneecapped by systemic friction.
This is where we really have to look at the geography and the bureaucracy of the Atlanta metropolitan area in 2007.
Okay, let's get into it.
It is vital to understanding why cases like this just stall out.
Think about the map of her supposed movements. You have Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, which sits largely in Clayton County.
Right.
Then you have the Walmart and the Chappell residence, which are located over in Fulton County.
Yes.
But the agency handling the missing persons file because of where the report was routed is the Atlanta Police Department.
Today, police departments share data relatively seamlessly through integrated cloud databases.
Right, it's all connected.
Yeah, a detective in Atlanta can instantly pull a plate reader hit from Clayton County. But in 2007, law enforcement was still heavily analog when it came to interdepartmental communication.
It was literally fax machines and phone calls.
Exactly. When a narrative involves a person moving across county lines, from an airport in one jurisdiction to a retail store in another, it creates severe bureaucratic bottlenecks.
I mean, who even has the primary jurisdiction at that point?
That's the problem. If APD wants to pull surveillance from an airport in Clayton County, they can't just log into a system and look.
No.
They have to formally request it, they have to navigate interdepartmental protocols, and sometimes even get authorization from different county judges.
Which just burns incredibly valuable investigative hours.
Yes.
Which is terrifying when you realize they were already 74 days behind.
It's a nightmare scenario.
But the systemic delays went way beyond local county lines. There is a detail in the NAMSUS file that completely stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, the registration date.
Yes. NAMDIS is the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. It's basically the central database designed to connect local missing persons cases with national unidentified remains.
A crucial tool.
Absolutely crucial. But Juna's profile, case MP 8589, was not created until November 9th, 2010.
That is over 3 years after she vanished.
3.5 years. How does a mother with a meticulously documented exit plan who vanishes on the way to a new job sit in a local filing cabinet for over 3 years before being entered into the national system?
Well, it forces us to examine the sociological elements at play here, specifically the concept of double invisibility.
Double invisibility, let's dig into that.
This isn't necessarily about conscious malice from individual detectives. It's more about the mechanical defaults of the law enforcement and media ecosystems.
Okay.
Juna fell into a demographic intersection that statistically receives significantly less urgency.
Let's break down those mechanics. How does double invisibility actually function in practice?
So the first layer of invisibility is her age.
Because she's an adult.
Exactly. When a child goes missing, the system reacts with immediate, overwhelming force. Amber alerts are triggered, highways are shut down, and the presumption of foul play is basically instantaneous.
Right.
But when an adult disappears, particularly an adult who is known to be in the midst of a major life transition, like moving across the country, the investigative default position is the voluntary disappearance theory.
Because it's not illegal to walk away.
Exactly. An adult has the legal right to just abandon their life if they want to.
Yeah.
So when a domestic partner offers a highly plausible-sounding, mundane excuse like, "She walked away from me at a Walmart while I waited in the car," the intake system often just absorbs that narrative without immediate pushback.
They just accept it.
Right. It gets categorized as a low-priority domestic issue or a voluntary flight, rather than a critical, time-sensitive missing persons investigation.
And what's the second layer?
Her demographic profile.
Uh-huh.
As an Asian American woman, Juna did not fit the profile that historically triggers the massive algorithmic media frenzy we often see in high-profile cases.
She didn't get the wall-to-wall cable news coverage.
No, she didn't. She didn't have helicopters circling the Walmart parking lot or thousands of volunteers organizing grid searches over the weekend.
The media ecosystem didn't deploy its resources, which meant there was no external pressure on the police department to elevate the priority of the case.
Exactly.
So she was rendered invisible twice. First, by a bureaucratic intake system that assumed she just walked away because a spouse said so.
Yeah.
And second, by a media landscape that failed to put a spotlight on the glaring inconsistencies of that story.
It's tragic. And to truly understand why this tragedy might have unfolded exactly when it did, to understand the why behind the timeline, we need to look at Juna's relocation through the lens of forensic criminology.
Okay, the Cold Case Investigative Review refers to the specific window of time in February 2007 as the departure phase.
Yes, the departure phase.
And the psychological data surrounding this phase is pretty grim.
It is the most statistically dangerous period in the timeline of domestic instability.
Wow.
The departure phase is the specific window when a victim is physically executing their exit.
Okay.
Up until that point, even if there is conflict, the aggressor or the controlling party maintains a baseline level of control because the victim is still within their sphere of influence.
Right, they're still in the house.
The illusion of maintaining the status quo exists.
But the departure phase just shatters that illusion.
Completely. It is the moment the physical control is permanently severed. The bags are packed. The logistics are finalized.
There's no going back.
In criminology, we look at the difference between reactive violence and instrumental violence. During a departure phase, violence or interference is often instrumental.
Meaning it has a purpose.
Yes, it is a calculated, desperate mechanism used to forcibly regain control or permanently prevent the departure.
If you lay that psychological framework over Juna's exact timeline, the placement of February 16th makes terrifying sense.
It really does.
She was at the absolute undeniable peak of her departure phase.
Look at the milestone she had already passed. She had successfully moved her child out of the state. The biggest point of leverage was gone.
She had secured independent employment thousands of miles away, so the financial leverage was gone.
She had established her independence on literally every front. This brief return trip to Atlanta from Florida was meant to be a simple touch and go.
Right. The only reason she came back was to retrieve the final physical instrument of her autonomy.
Her car.
So if there was a controlling dynamic behind closed doors, this brief layover in Atlanta represented the absolute final opportunity for someone to interfere with her agency.
Yes.
Once she got the keys to that car and merged onto the interstate heading west, the window for intervention was permanently closed.
Which brings us right back to the mechanics of the Walmart story and why the prescription detail is so highly suspect when viewed through this criminological lens.
Let's push on that decoy again. Because if you know the window of control is closing and you need to manufacture a story to explain why the person never made it to their car, why a pharmacy?
Because a pharmacy visit requires a transaction, and a transaction implies a verifiable record.
Ah, okay.
The person constructing the narrative likely assumes that saying she went to get a prescription sounds incredibly concrete and believable to a patrol officer taking a preliminary report.
Yeah, it sounds like a hard fact.
However, it's a double-edged sword. If investigators actually execute a subpoena on that specific Walmart pharmacy, and there is no record of a prescription being called in, filled, or requested for Junaliza Chappell on or around February 16th,
Which there wasn't.
right, then the entire foundation of the last seen narrative collapses inward.
It exposes the story as a functional mechanism rather than a truth.
Exactly.
It suggests that the stop at Walmart was a calculated decoy flare.
A decoy flare. I like that analogy.
Yeah, just like a fighter jet deploys a high-heat flare to distract a tracking missile. A perpetrator deploys a highly public, chaotic vanishing point to distract law enforcement.
That's a great way to put it.
It points the tracking missile of the investigation away from the private residence, away from the private vehicle, and toward a busy retail parking lot where random, untraceable things theoretically happen.
It creates a phantom third party. An unknown abductor in a parking lot? A random act of violence?
Right.
It pushes the presumption of guilt entirely outside the domestic sphere.
But despite the decoy flares, despite the catastrophic 74-day delay, the erased CCTV footage, and the systemic blind spots, the case didn't die.
No, it didn't.
The sources make it very clear that the persistence of this investigation is largely due to the evolution of media and the sheer willpower of Juna's family.
Thank goodness for them.
We aren't
Yeah.
stuck in the analog bottlenecks of 2007 anymore.
The landscape of missing persons investigations has been fundamentally altered by digital platforms that just bypass traditional media gatekeepers.
The sources specifically highlight the Vanished podcast hosted by Marissa Jones.
Yes.
What's the mechanism there? How does a podcast actually move the needle on a case that police couldn't solve for 15 years?
It basically acts as an archival resurrection.
Interesting.
Police departments have finite resources. A cold case file literally sits in a box until a new lead forces an investigator to open it.
Right.
True crime journalism, like The Vanished, takes that analog file, digitizes the narrative, and broadcasts it to millions of people simultaneously.
It crowdsources the memory retrieval process.
Exactly. Someone listening in 2026 might have been a pharmacy tech at that Fulton County Walmart in 2007.
Oh, wow.
They might not have remembered anything on May 1st, 2007. But hearing the deep dive could dislodge a specific memory about a vehicle or a frantic individual in the parking lot.
The podcast ecosystem surrounding these cases provides incredible context. The sources mention other episodes of The Vanished that show how these long-term investigations actually behave in the real world.
Right. They discuss the Zianya Valora case, for instance.
Tell me about that one.
The Valora case is a perfect illustration of the agonizing, slow-motion reality of forensic recovery. In that case, law enforcement and families searched continuously for 15 months before her remains were finally discovered in a dry riverbed.
15 months.
It demonstrates that sometimes, regardless of the investigative effort, the physical environment simply holds on to its secrets until weather, animal activity, or sheer chance yields an answer.
But the sources also compare Juna's case to the Corey Bryant case, which highlights a completely different mechanical issue,
Right.
the shifting nature of witness testimony. In Corey's case, you had individuals initially reporting a death and then legally retracting those claims later on, creating a muddled, legally unusable timeline.
But if we look closely, Juna's case is actually the inverse of the Corey Bryant dynamic.
How so?
In the Bryant case, the friction was caused by a shifting narrative. People changed their stories.
Right.
In Juna's case, the primary witness, her husband, has reportedly remained rigidly consistent in his story about the Walmart over the decades.
He hasn't changed it at all.
The issue stalling Juna's legal movement isn't that the story keeps changing. It is the complete, terrifying void of corroborating physical or digital evidence to support that single, immovable story.
It's just a narrative island.
Yes.
And fighting against that void has become a lifelong crusade for the one person Juna was trying to protect, her daughter, Ashley.
It's really incredible to see.
The 3-year-old girl who was sent ahead to secure the beachhead on the West Coast is now an adult woman, and she is fiercely, tirelessly advocating for her mother.
The involvement of a dedicated, direct family member completely shifts the operational dynamic of a cold case.
It transforms it from a bureaucratic liability into an active, high-pressure campaign for justice.
Exactly. When a family member refuses to let a case go, it forces agencies to keep it on the active roster.
Ashley has actually set up a dedicated tip line. If you're listening to this right now and anything we've discussed sparks a memory, maybe you worked at that Walmart, maybe you lived in the same apartment complex, or maybe you knew them, the email is bringjunalizahome@gmail.com.
You can also bypass email and reach out to the Atlanta Police Department Missing Persons Unit directly by calling 4045464235.
It only takes one data point to break a 19-year-old alibi.
It really does. And based on the totality of the evidence, we've just spent an hour unpacking the behavioral baseline, the logistical beachhead, the incredibly narrow timeline,
The 74-day reporting void.
and the forensic realities of the departure phase. Investigators and criminologists are generally left with three main hypotheses.
Let's lay these three theories out side by side. I've been trying to make sense of the end game here, and I can really only see three logical ways this plays out. Let's start with hypothesis C.
The voluntary departure theory.
Yeah, this is the idea that she simply walked away from the Walmart to start a new life.
When we apply the mechanics of her exit plan to this theory, it immediately falls apart. We can confidently dismantle hypothesis C.
Yeah, I agree.
Given the thousands of dollars and immense logistical effort she invested in securing her new career, the physical exhaustion of completing corporate training, and above all, the pre-staged safety of her child in California.
Right.
The idea that she voluntarily abandoned her own plan at the 1-yard line defies all logic.
It makes no sense.
She was actively building a life to share with her daughter, walking away into the unknown without her car, without her child, and without utilizing the new job she just trained for makes absolutely no psychological or logistical sense.
Okay, so if she didn't walk away on her own, we have to look at hypothesis B, a third-party abduction at a high-traffic location.
Okay.
This is the scenario where the husband's story is entirely 100% true. She walks into the Walmart, or she is walking through the busy parking lot, and a random stranger abducts her.
Well, while in the realm of forensic science we never declare something entirely impossible, we have to look at statistical probabilities.
Right.
This scenario is incredibly rare. For a petite adult woman to be abducted by a stranger from a busy, heavily trafficked retail environment like a Walmart parking lot,
During daylight or regular evening hours?
without leaving a single trace, without a physical struggle, and without a single witness coming forward, requires a confluence of highly improbable events.
And even if it did happen, the 74-day delay in reporting guaranteed that the stranger got away with it.
Yes.
Any forensic evidence that might have been left at the scene tire tracks from a strange van, a dropped item, or security footage of the abduction was completely erased before police even arrived.
Which brings us to the most statistically probable scenario, hypothesis A, domestic foul play.
And when you look at the board, all the arrows point here.
It is the prevalent hypothesis among those who knew her, and it perfectly aligns with the established data of forensic criminology regarding the departure phase.
It really does.
When you combine the catastrophic 74-day reporting delay initiated by someone other than the spouse,
The total lack of CCTV confirmation at the supposed vanishing point.
the precise timing corresponding with the final hours of her physical accessibility,
And the proximity of her husband to her last known verified movements.
the evidence overwhelmingly points toward an internal domestic event rather than an external random one.
It means we have to view the Walmart narrative not as a location of disappearance, but as the decoy flare we talked about.
Yes.
It was a vanishing point manufactured to make investigators look at a busy public parking lot so they wouldn't look at the private reality of what was happening during the final dangerous hours of her exit plan.
We often think of cold cases from the mid-2000s as being permanently frozen in time, trapped by the analog limitations and the reporting standards of the day.
Right.
But think about the mechanics of time. What happens when the analog secrets of 2007 finally collide with the digital transparency and the advanced genetic genealogy tools of the late 2020s?
Things change.
The truth has a way of outlasting those who try to bury it. Yes, time degrades hard drives and human memories. But time also degrades loyalties.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Relationships sour. Marriages end. Roommates move away. People who were terrified to speak up in 2007 because they were under someone's control or fear might be in a completely different, safer phase of their lives today.
They might finally be willing to speak.
Exactly.
I want to turn this over to you, listening right now. We've gone deep into the mechanics of Juna's meticulous exit plan. We've broken down the devastating impact of that 74-day delay, and we've scrutinized the 3 hypotheses.
Which theory do you find most likely?
Yeah. Or is there a specific mechanical detail we unpack today, maybe about the CCTV overwrite cycles or the psychology of the departure phase, that sparks a totally new theory for you?
Drop your thoughts in the comments section below.
We read all of them, and your perspective might be the angle no one has considered yet.
Active, critical discussion is the engine that keeps these missing persons cases alive in the public consciousness. It generates the momentum required to finally break the silence.
It absolutely does. And if you found value in exploring the mechanics of this case today, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
It's really helpful.
It's not just a metric. It actually tells the YouTube algorithm that this is a highly important conversation, and the algorithm will then push Juna's story out to thousands of new people, which is exactly the kind of massive digital exposure cases like this need to finally shake loose the truth.
Have you ever meticulously planned a major life change, only to have a single unexpected variable disrupt everything?
Juna planned everything perfectly for her and Ashley. It's time we help finish the journey she started. We'll see you in the next deep dive.